died and been buried at this particular point in time in our lesson. Saul and Jonathan and two other sons of Saul that we don't talk about very often. But all of them have died and they've been buried. And David has received news of that, hasn't he? And is David next in line for the kingdom? Yes, he's the next in line for the kingdom. But there is a small problem that develops when when it's time for David to become king. What's the problem? Yes. He only becomes king of Judah. He does not become king of all Israel. Okay? Who does Abner install as the king of Israel? Yes, he is the fourth son of Saul, and he is known as Ish-bosheth. Ish-bosheth. So he's installed him as the king. And so we have a divided kingdom, don't we? Now, we don't normally refer to it as the divided kingdom, but it is divided. There are two kings, aren't there? David is not king over the entirety of the nation of Israel. He's only king over Judah at this particular time, so that creates kind of a problem, doesn't it? How long is this situation going to continue? Anybody know? Nobody's read far enough ahead, studied enough ahead. 7.5 years, folks. That's a long time, isn't it? That's a fairly long time for the kingdom to be divided and David to be, the king only of one portion of it. So, and can you imagine David, the kingdom was united with Saul. Now David steps into the leadership and it's not what Saul got. He only gets part of it. Can you imagine how he must have felt? I just get the man buried, I just become king, and we got problems all over again. Folks, if you don't think David had problems in his life, he did have problems in his life and difficulties. Question, is it customary for problems to develop when there are leadership changes? Yeah. If you've never gone through a leadership change at a congregation, don't. Okay? They're just not always fun for some reason. And who is this person, Abner, who doesn't want to go along with David's being king? Who is he? Okay, he is was Saul's captain of the army, right? So that was a pretty prominent position. But there's more to it than just that. He's also what? Okay, an uncle of Saul, right? So they have this kinsman situation that's going on. And so for some reason, Abner does not want to unite under David. He rises up, grabs Ish-bosheth. They run to a place called Mahanaim, and he establishes him as king of Israel, and David is now king of Judah. Well, folks, guess what happens when you get kingdoms divided against yourself? You start fighting, don't you? And that is what's going to transpire in this particular section. I've entitled my chapter, The Rivalry Between Abner and Joab. Who is Joab? Yes, he is the captain of David's forces. And I find it interesting that Joab is a cousin of who? Of David. So there's a lot of kinship involved in these nations, are there not? And folks, here's something you need to understand. Before this division happened, Joab and Abner knew one another under the reign of guess who? Under the reign of Saul, okay? These men were close combatants, one with another. They were both part of the army of David, and they were very close individuals. But when Saul dies, Abner tries to take advantage of the situation and splits the kingdom for a period of 7.5 years. An outline of the text, I just put down this. Number 1, conflict at the pool of Gibeon. Number 2, the confrontation between Abner and Asahel. Number 3, the cessation of the battle. And then number 4, the count of those who died in battle. So a 4-part lesson that we're going to be talking about this morning. Who went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon? Who? Yeah, we started on the question, so look at your answers now. Okay, yes, Abner did. And Abner, the son of Ner, and the servants of Ish-bosheth, the son of Saul, went out from Mahanaim to Gibeon. Now, folks, if you look at a map and you watch what's going on, Mahanaim is on the east side of the Jordan River. Now there is movement made into Gibeon, okay, across the Jordan River, and David and his forces are concerned about that, okay? Remember, if you've got two opposing kingdoms, what happens oftentimes? Battles and fights and takeovers. And don't you think David was a little skittish right now? I would be, you know. And then all of a sudden when I hear that my enemy is on the move, well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to sit there and do nothing? Oh, no. I'm going to find out about what in the world's going on. And that's what's going to transpire on this particular occasion. Who went to meet Abner by the pool of Gibeon? Notice what is, yes. And Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and the servants of David went out and met together by the pool of Gibeon. And they sat down, the one on one side of the pool, and the other on the other side of the pool. So we've got this big pool, okay, most likely a kind of like a big pond area, okay, and we've got one army on one side, and we've got one army on another side, and the two commanders know each other, don't they? Abner versus who? Abner versus Joab. Now, folks, if you just immediately start fighting, what's going to happen? It's going to get nasty, is it not? Okay. Now, remember, both these kingdoms have just developed. Both of these kingdoms are brand new, are they not? It's not like, you know, they've been around for 50 or 60 or 100 years. They just got started. And guess what you don't want to do? You don't want to lose your army on the first day of battle, do you? That'd be a bad thing. Okay? No, Abner knows that. He's not stupid by any means. So he makes a proposal, does he not? At the pool, what did Abner say to Joab? Ah, yes, let them play. And Abner said to Joab, let the young men now rise and play before us. And Joab said, let them arise. Okay? The little word play, did anybody look it up? What does it mean? To arise, to fight, to be in sport. Okay? Guys, it means to laugh, to play, to mock, but yet the mocking is usually in derision. Okay? One man made this statement, Barnes. He says, the word is applied here to the serious games of war. You ever hear of war games? Oh, yeah. You know, there's war games that transpire a lot of times. So, yes, they are going to be involved in play. Do military men like war games? Oh, yeah, they like war games. And so, let's rise up and play. Let's engage in war games one with another. So, how many are chosen? 12. Yes, 12 from each side. And there arose and went over by number 12 of Benjamin. Who are they with? They're with Abner, are they not? Remember, Saul's from what tribe? From Benjamin. Okay, so 12 men of Benjamin. Let me ask you something. Are the Benjamites, are they fighting men? Anybody remember? Nobody remembers? Guys, these guys, you know, these guys are specialized. They're almost like special forces, okay? They were individuals who could take a sling and they could cast a rock within a hair's breadth. Okay, these guys were well-trained military fighting men. Okay, so it wasn't surprising that the nation of Israel would choose a Saul when they wanted a king because he was a great warrior. And so here the Benjamites are, which pertain to Ish-bosheth, the son of Saul, and 12 of the servants of who? 12 of the servants of David. So now what do we have? Well, we have a battle that's about to ensue. Not really a battle. What might you call it? Okay, a what? A skirmish, a little war game. But it's only what? 12 against 12, right? What's the hope? It's really twofold. What's the hope? Okay, one of them is one side will be victorious. Okay, you get 12 against 12, that's fair, right? But if 12 of them can kill 8 of the others and we only lose 2, we win, right? So the battle can be determined with just very few men losing their lives, okay? And so an entire army of individuals does not have to be killed on this particular occasion. Remember wasn't that what the Philistines did with Goliath? That's what they did. Send Goliath out, one man. And what did he say? Give me a man. If I win, you become my servants. If you win, we become your servants. See, you don't have to lose an entire nation or an entire army. Okay, just a few individuals are going to lose their lives and determine the outcome of the battle. So there's a little bit of strategy that's involved there. But what happened during the initial conflict? Crazy, isn't it? And they caught every one his fellow by the head and thrust his sword into his fellow's side, so that they fell down together. Some individuals think that they all had beards. Okay? So they all rush to the battlefield, right? They have their swords. One grabs one beard. Then all of a sudden that same dude grabs my beard. Now we can't get away from each other. And so what do? Oh! And all of a sudden, Abner and Joab are looking around, and guess what? There's 24 dead men. Now, what good is this? You know, can you imagine such a battle? I bet it was over fast, too, don't you? It was unbelievable that would transpire. What was the name of the place called? That was not the name of the place. She's over there reading the translation of the place. It's hard to say, isn't it? Yes. Helkath-hazzurim. Now, Marilyn, what's it mean? What's the name mean? Yes, the field of sharp swords. That's one of the names that was given. Another name is said was the portion of the mighty. Another translated it as the inheritance of those who were slain. When I was a little boy, my dad said, let's go to Shiloh. Has anybody ever heard of Shiloh? Heard of Shiloh? If you're an old Tennessee person, or maybe if you're a student of history, you've heard of Shiloh. Shiloh was a battle of the Civil War. And it's not very far from where I lived in Memphis. It's just right down the road from where my daughter lives right now. And he said, let's go to Shiloh. He said, that's where one of the battles of the Civil War took place. And he says, they've got this place there, and it's referred to as the Bloody Pond. And I thought, oh, hot dog. Man, we're going to get to see the Bloody Pond. Okay? So we go, and guess what it is? It's a pond. There ain't no blood in it. I thought I was going to see this red pond of blood. The bloody pond. And it was just a pond. It was smaller than my granddaddy's ponds. But you see, on the day when the battle took place, that is where all the wounded soldiers from both north and south went in order to wash their wounds in that water. And there were so many wounds that were taken care of. Guess what? The water that day did turn to blood, and they referred to it as the Bloody Pond. Okay, so there are times when things get named based upon battles, right? Okay, I kind of like that first one. The field of sharp edges or swords. The field where 12 men were slain and lost their lives on that particular day. True or false? Abner was victorious that day in battle. False. Folks, guess what ensued? A major battle, did it not? Remember, the very thing they did not want to happen is the very thing that did happen. The very thing Abner was trying to keep from happening. Both armies going to battle one with another, now they are fully engaged in warfare. And the text says, and there was a very sore battle that day, and Abner was beaten, and the men of Israel before the servants of David. All of a sudden, the text kind of changes its direction, doesn't it? And it says this, and there were 3 sons of Zeruiah, Joab, and Abishai, and Asahel. Who is Zeruiah? Does anybody know? She is the sister, at least the half-sister of David. See, this is what makes the kinship between Joab and who? And David. But she didn't just have one son, she had 3. Okay, 3 sons. And so now the text alerts us to these 3 sons, Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. So they are all nephews of David, aren't they? Okay. And one of them is, the Bible says, light of foot. Does that mean his foot didn't weigh much? Oh, he's fast. I thought he had small feet. Okay, no, he's fast, wasn't he? That's the text says that he was light of foot as a what? He has a wild roe, the King James says. A wild roe. It could have been a gazelle, could have been an antelope, it could have been just a regular deer. The word is very broad and general. But are gazelles, antelopes, and deer all pretty fast? If you don't think so, go chase one. Okay? Just see if you can catch him. He'll be pretty fast. Who did Asahel pursue after? Abner. Wow, and Asahel pursued after Abner. And in going, he turned not to the right hand, nor to the left from following Abner. Huh. 2 interesting things. Okay? 2 interesting things. What's he doing to Abner? He's chasing him. Now, wait a minute. There's a battle going on, I thought. And what's the commander doing? He's running for his life. See, you didn't even think about that, did you? Here's the commander, and he's running away from the battle. And Asahel sees him. He says, oh, no, not you. So he puts on his Nikes, okay? I'm just kidding about that. Okay, I said that because he's light of foot, right? Oftentimes, guys, they would wear no shoes when they would pursue individuals like that. Okay, but he was very light of foot, was he not? And so he said, I'm going to be the one who goes after this individual, right? You don't want the commander escaping, do you? Oh, no, you don't. So off he goes. And guess what? If I can kill him, does that put a feather in my cap? Oh, yes. And guess what I get? I get his army. His armor. And I get his sword. And I get his spear. And I get the spoils of battle that day. Right? And so off he goes, pursuing after Abner. When Abner looked behind him, what did he ask? Yeah. Then Abner looked behind him and said, art thou Asahel? And he said, I am. Why would he ask that? Most likely he knew exactly who it was. Okay, based upon what? Based upon his speed. Okay, but guys, when you're in battle, it's not like you're out there, with your running clothes on. You know, he's in battle. What's he dressed in? He's dressed in his armor. Okay? So he's just making certain that what? This is Asahel. I bet it is, but I'm going to ask, is this Asahel? And he said, I am, doesn't he? Did he understand what Asahel was doing? Oh, yeah. He understood exactly what he was trying to do, didn't he? What did Abner encourage Asahel to do? I want you to listen to what he says, okay? It's not just stop following. Listen to what he says. And Abner said to him, turn thou aside to the right hand or to the left, and lay hold on one of the young men and take his armor. He didn't say just quit following me. He knew exactly why Asahel was on the loose. Remember what I said? He wanted what? He wanted Abner's armor, folks. He was going to kill this man. And so Abner says, look, you need to turn to the left hand. You need to turn to the right hand. You need to grab one of these other enemy combatants and kill them and take their armor. But Asahel was what? He was pretty determined, was he not? True or false? Asahel quit following Abner. That's a false, isn't it? But Asahel would not turn aside from following him. True or false? Abner wanted to kill Asahel. I've heard one true. It's false, isn't it? He didn't want to kill the man. Okay? And Abner said unto Asahel, turn thee aside from following me. Watch this. Wherefore should I smite thee to the ground? You know, folks, you don't warn a person to turn away if you want to what? If you want to kill him. If you wanted to kill him, you know what he'd have said? Come on. Just come on, dude. If this is what you want, just come on. But he didn't. He says, turn away, or I will smite you to the ground. He did not want to kill this man. First warning or second? First warning or second? It's a second warning. He told him, turn aside and kill who? Kill one of the young men. He now says, turn aside, or I'm going to smite you to the ground. Two warnings, folks. You don't come after the second warning. Three's a what? It's a charm. Isn't it? Three's a charm. But listen to his reasoning. How then should I hold up my blank to blank thy brother? My face to Joab, thy brother. What did I tell you at the start? These two men are what? These two men know each other. These two men have a relationship with one another. These two men are both commanders of forces. Do commanders usually have a high respect and high regard for one another? Most do, folks. Okay? Everybody gets all bent out of shape when, President Trump says that he's going to try to be a friend to one of these national leaders. Okay? Well, let me tell you what. I would rather him kind of be friendly than be an enemy, wouldn't you? Because you get angry with one another as enemies, it gets bad. These two men, they're enemy combatants. But guess what? He has respect for Joab, and he does not want to kill who? I don't want to kill his brother. If I kill you, his brother, how in the world am I going to look Joab in the face? You see, he had some conscience about him, didn't he? And respected Joab and did not want to take this man's life. It's kind of sad, isn't it? How did Abner kill Asahel? I want you to listen to this. Howbeit, he refused to turn aside. Wherefore Abner, with the hinder end of the spear, smote him under the fifth rib, that the spear came out behind him, and he fell down there and died in the same place. The hinder end of the spear. Now you have to know something about spear manufacturing. Okay? Spears. Spears are not swords. Are they? No, spears are not. Spears are long, right? They usually stand above your head, And on one end of the spear is a metal, a sharp metal point. That is usually the thing that is thrown in the direction of what? The enemy, or stabbed into the enemy. Okay, but the hinder end, that's the butt end. Guess what they did to those? They sharpened them to a very fine point. Okay? For two reasons. Number one, you don't want to lay your spear down so that somebody can step on it, so what do? You can just stick it right in the ground and it stands up. Everybody can see it, you can see it, you have easy access to it, right? And if you need it for a weapon, you have it, don't you? I'd love to have been there and seen how those two men fought that day, wouldn't you? Asahel didn't stop. He got close enough to him that guess what he did? Struck him through with the hinder end of that sword, with the butt end. Right through what? Through the fifth rib and out the back. And down he went. What did Abner told him? Don't come fight me, or I'll smite you to the ground. You see, guys, Abner knew I'm a more skilled fighter than who? Than Asahel. I have the talents, I have the abilities, I have the knowledge, I have the know-how. I've been in warfare for a long time. This guy has not. He knew the man, didn't he? Knew his brother. And he says, don't do this or I'll what? I'll kill you. And guess what? He fulfilled his word, didn't he? He knew what he was capable of. And old Asahel died that day. Pretty sad, isn't it? Yes.
The spear then was sort of like a double-edged sword.
Oh, yes.
One brother said it cuts coming and going.
Coming and going. This one cut on either end, you know. Man. Who was also in pursuit of Abner? Who is it? Joab and Abishai pursued after Abner, the Bible said. They're just not as what? They're just not as fast as their brother. But they finally what? They finally catch up, don't they? Where were they when the sun went down on them? The hill of what? The hill of Ammah. And the sun went down when they were come to the hill of Ammah that lieth before Giath by the way of the wilderness in Gibeon. We do not know the exact location of this particular hill, folks. I looked and I looked and I looked, and I couldn't find anybody who knows the exact location of this particular hill, but it's around the area of Gibeon somewhere there, okay? Who gathered themselves together with Abner and stood on the top of the hill? And the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together after Abner and became one troop and stood up on the top of a hill. Wow. So here they are gathered for what? Gathered for battle, are they not? Okay. Now guys, this next question is very interesting. What two questions did Abner pose to Joab? Question one. Must the sword devour forever? Is that a good question? You know what? There's some people in congregations, they like to fight and argue and bicker and cause trouble. You know what? That happens. And the question that you need to ask is what? There's preachers who like to fight and argue and bicker. You know what? And the question we need to ask ourselves is, shall the sword devour forever? Folks, guess what the end result of warfare is? Death and destruction. Nothing profitable. Shall the sword devour forever? What's he asking? How long are we going to keep this battle up? Right? How long are we going to keep fighting? I read this passage once, and it was during a time when some friends of mine, preachers, were in a big argument and fight and battle with one another. And so I write a bulletin article about it. And I just use this as my title, Shall the Sword Devour Forever? How long, brethren, are faithful brothers in Christ going to continue to be divided against one another and just keep slaying one another? Okay? Knowest thou not that it will be bitterness in the latter end? Don't you understand? If we keep this up, guess what? There's nothing good that comes from this. It's just bitterness, isn't it? Wow. James writes this, "But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work." Folks, it's devilish, the Bible says. And so we got to be careful about these warfares. Had Abner failed to speak, what would have occurred? This is an interesting statement. Listen to what Joab says. "As God liveth, unless thou hadst spoken, surely then in the morning the people had gone up, every man or every one from following his brethren." This is a weird statement, kind of, okay? Abner is trying to get the battle to stop, is he not? "Shall the sword devour forever?" Joab answers back and says, "Well, if you had never said anything, guess what? This whole battle would have never started to begin with." What did Abner say? "Let the young men rise and what? Play." You see, basically what Joab is saying is this: if you'd never said that, we'd never fought. We'd have watched what you were doing, we'd have watched your movements, and probably the next morning we'd just what? We'd have just all gone home. But no, you had to what? Had to stir it up. You had to be the one to invite the fight. So here we are. It's your fault that we are where we are. Okay? I think that's interesting. True or false? When Joab blew the trumpet, his forces continued to attack Abner. That's false, folks. That's false. "So Joab blew the trumpet, and all the people stood still and pursued after Israel no more, neither fought they any more." Soldiers are obedient. Isn't that cool? Soldiers are obedient. When you hear the sound to stop fighting, that sound is issued by who? It's issued by the commander. And soldiers are obedient, so they stop fighting. How many of David's men died total? Total. I got 19 and 20. Does anybody know? Yes, 20. 19 plus who? Plus Asahel. How many of Abner's forces died? 360. Have you done the math? 1 to every 18. That's a lot of men, isn't it? It's a pretty big battle that day. 380 men lost their lives on that particular occasion, guys. Now, guess what? David's men go back to Hebron. Is that where he's the king of right now? Yes. Abner's men go back to Mahanaim. That's now the capital of what? Of Israel. Okay, so we've still got a what? We got a divided kingdom, even though David and his men were victorious. Okay? Let me ask you something. Does it take much to tick off a person like Abner? You'll see next week. What's the point of a lot of battles? You know? Joab said it probably would have never happened if Abner hadn't invited him to the battle. Okay? But you see, you got a divided kingdom. It's not supposed to be. When we go against what God wants, not good.